And good morning, everyone. Today is, believe it or not, the 16th of August, 2018. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. This is going to be a little different. Of course, I always say that, but I'll cover a little bit of the news that I think is important at this point, and it's going to be from a slightly different perspective. I'm going to start off with this whole thing with Strzok because last week, we talked about Strzok being fired, or earlier in the week, we talked about Strzok being fired last week from the FBI. What's important, though, is what we talked about earlier, and that is that Strzok is part of an interagency group. Actually, he heads it between the CIA and the FBI. I talked a long time ago about, and again, the motto of my channel, the slogan of my channel, the IC is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and it continues to be so. The IC, the intelligence community. I saw one person who put up a comment, and they thought I said I seen, and we're talking about my grammar. No, I said I see. The IC being the intelligence community. But at any rate, so what they did was, and I've talked about it for a long time, how the FBI and the IC and the CIA are all corrupt from top to bottom, not just the top brass like so many people talk about. No, this thing is bad all the way through. As a matter of fact, I saw an article on, there were a couple of LA sheriff's deputies that were convicted. They were working in the county jail, and I don't know all the circumstances, but I saw the FBI agent that was responsible for them being jailed. Let's put it that way, getting convicted. He's the same guy that was sitting behind Strzok at the hearings. I'm not going to mention his name. I'm just going to say they're all dirty. Stop thinking that, until they prove otherwise, by coming out and blowing the whistle or making something right that's messed up, they're bad. All they're doing is sitting back hoping that they can ride it out so they can get their pension. That's all they care about. And I'm sorry, I have no respect for them. But at any rate, I also talked about the CIA and the FBI becoming one thing. Now, they'll try to tell you Strzok is the only one. Well, maybe in name, but don't kid yourself. Just like in the military, we had CIA embeds in there, and a couple of them, we knew were CIA, but a lot of them wouldn't tell you, of course. But they were embedded in the military, much like the political commissars and those types of guys would be in the Red Army of the Soviets. They're all over the place, and a lot of people, this whole InfraGard thing that you hear about. If you're not aware of that, go check up on what InfraGard is. This was basically citizen spies, is what it turns out. They try to make it sound sort of like Neighborhood Watch. It's not. Everybody wants to be a spy. The whole spy thing has been so dramatized and made to be desired, I guess you could say, be a spy. So the IC saw that opportunity and accommodated people. And unfortunately, it's a very dangerous thing, and it's having some really nasty consequences. So let me get back to Strzok. Strzok is still in the CIA. He may have lost his job at the FBI, but as the people at AIM said yesterday, he is senior executive service, and will likely not lose much pay, if at all. But the really disgusting thing, I didn't expect the CIA to fire him too. That's just not going to happen. But, and that again shows you where we are. And I'm going to talk about Brennan here in a few minutes as well. So we have this situation with Strzok, and he may have been fired by the FBI. But the fact of the matter is, can you believe the number of people that have sent him donations to his GoFundMe? It's like over $500,000 now. And the same thing happened with McCabe. We are a sick country. Now, a lot of that could be from, like, say, the Clintons or whomever, on the leftist Marxist side, who put money in there to make it look like he's being supported by the people at large. But I don't think that's the case. I honestly believe that there are Americans that are that stupid, that really don't care about their rights or the rights of others or the direction that things are headed if we don't get this capsized boat put back up in the keel in the water, which, despite a few recent things, I still think President Trump is attempting to do. So anyway, I wanted to kick off this thing with Strzok because that's kind of like The IC has permeated every single facet of our lives. The deep state, the intelligence community, all of that, the New World Order, whatever, all of that that's connected has permeated us from top to bottom and inside and out. They have they have literally dipped us. And if you don't know what dipped is, again, go back a few videos of mine and you'll see what the acronym DPPP stands for. I don't use the word that rhymes with duck anymore. It's too good for those people. So I want them to get dipped. And they're trying to dip us. Okay. It's so serious at this point, and I've said this before. I saw another video last night about the situation in California and how California is so severely divided, and how it is basically the ground upon which this entire divisiveness in the country is taking the strongest root. Now, it's in other areas, but we definitely see it in California. And I won't name the video. I probably should, but I won't. I'll just tell you about this particular individual shows how California it might be the richest state, and in fact, as far as its economic power, and actually it's stronger than most countries in the world, but it's also the poorest, and it's basically becoming a ghetto state, and that's very true. That's where the country is headed, is that same situation that's in California is headed to the rest of the country. New York for certain, Chicago, and some other places. This isn't done by accident. This has all been by design, and the IC has had a hand in it. And this thing with Strzok just shows everything about it. Okay, just like I said during my Boston bombing analysis, where I talked about the CIA and the FBI being involved together, all of this, I hope it all comes out. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the 9/11 thing later, but more in the esoteric realm for those of you who are interested and want to stick around. But I'm going to do that at the end so that you don't, if you're not interested in those things, I won't be boring you. Some good developments. President Trump finally removed John Brennan's security clearance, so he can't keep using it to fight against the president and against the American people, which is exactly what he was doing. And that needs to happen to Clapper and to Hayden and to Phil Mudd and all those other people. Absolutely. And I could name a bunch of other names. Brennan's the first one, but apparently there is some information, Jack Posobiec put it out and some others, that Clapper's next and that there'll be a lot more coming. And that's the way it needs to be. These people need to be, that's the first step in stopping their ability to harm the Second American Revolution and the American Constitutional Republic, which is, they are sworn to that. That's what they're about. And it needs to be stopped, and the president needs to look at this as a war, not politics. And I've said that for a very, very long time. And we're starting to see some of that. The censorship that's going on, everybody should know by now that Alex Jones' InfoWars channel was taken down. And I've been warning about that since practically the day that President Trump took the oath of office. That if he didn't get on the initiative and get on the attack, not trying to placate these people, but go at them the way it needs to be, that there would be some serious casualties. And we've seen that, and it's continued, and it's going to get worse. Now, he might have a plan, I don't even like to use that word these days, but he might have a plan. I understand he's already talked to Tim Cook of Google, or I guess that and Apple. But whatever. Apparently, I don't know if it didn't do any good or what, but it doesn't seem to have helped a whole lot, at least at this point. So we can expect that once Alex Jones is completely eradicated, which is where this is going. I imagine he's got his apps and those types of things, but even the web, he's been taken down off the web in many, probably all of his platforms by now, all of his programs. But this shows you where it's going, and CNN is up there, how happy they are about it, and and they practically celebrating. Oh, they are celebrating. That's exactly what they're doing, and so is everybody else. Well, what goes around comes around. CNN, and the undercurrent is that you will be labeled as a domestic enemy, which rightly you should, because you're not a news organization. You are a propaganda arm of the enemy. It's an entirely different situation, and I hope you get your just rewards. And not just as an organization, but many of you who have worked at CNN and the other major medias too. It's time. It's time. I hate to do that. Thomas Jefferson hated the media. He absolutely hated the media. Of course, it was called the press in those days, the newspapers, those things. He hated the press. He understood their proper place and how important they were to a free republic, right? To liberty-loving people. But abused as they are, even in his day, he didn't like them. He went ahead and he agreed. We got to put it in the Bill of Rights, the press freedom, the freedom of speech. And that's not just press freedom, ladies and gentlemen. It's freedom of speech. And really that is under attack. And people like Strzok have a lot to do with it, and other people you've never heard of. But he still remains in the CIA. How disgusting. Okay, jumping over to the Clinton situation, which continues to be a problem. We heard about an airplane, a jet, that apparently used to belong to Donald Trump. The tail number, apparently, that's what I've heard. I haven't checked that. That's what somebody else has told me, that plane actually used to belong to Donald Trump, and it's now it was purchased by the Department of Justice, and that they've been in Little Rock, Arkansas, on a second trip to load up information. And everybody, even Bill Still, is saying, wow, it looks like this investigation of the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation and all that is going ahead. I'm going to say I hope so, but I'm from Missouri. You're going to have to prove it to me. It could also just be part of the cover-up. I don't know what to think about that right now. People are still trying to prop up John Huber and Sessions. Sessions is long gone. There's no way to prop him up. Huber, yeah, he could save himself, but... And I'm going to just say this, okay? I've got to remain skeptical of Huber. He's in Utah. He's a member of the LDS Church, and I don't care what the LDS think. He's going to do what he's told. I'm sorry, that's just the way it's going to be. And the leadership of the top parts of the LDS Church, and actually quite a bit of it, are in bed with the federal government. I'm serious. A lot of people talk about their occultic connections. Well, yeah, that's true, but remember, there's a good side of that and a bad side. Unfortunately, and I will say, I think that the modern leadership for a long time of the Mormon Church has been on the bad side. So I'm not expecting much from Huber. They're not going to allow him. Trust me, they're not going to allow him to do the job that needs to be done. And still, also we also know from the instructions that were given to Huber by Sessions, he's supposed to look at things, investigate them, and decide what needs to be investigated further. There's nothing in there that says he's going to prosecute anybody or even has the ability to. So, especially not out of his jurisdiction. So I'm not exactly sure what you can expect from Huber. Maybe he said, yeah, somebody needs to go down, and this lady who's been in charge of the FBI down there has tried to cover up the investigation on the Clintons. So we need to override her and send somebody in there that can do it and get. Yeah, maybe. I'm from Missouri. I know how things work in the Intermountain West, especially people that are in any power capacity and associated with the Mormon Church. I wouldn't be holding my breath if I were you. Okay, Jenny Moore. Everybody by now should know that Jenny Moore was found, she died in a hotel room there in Maryland, just outside of D.C. She was working with a lot of other independent journalists, exposing, particularly her real crux was exposing the Clintons. Isn't that interesting? Michael Hastings investigating Brennan, other people. I mean, what are the statistical probabilities of all of these deaths surrounding the Clintons? And the fact that they never get investigated, they never get resolved, really, because the IC covers it up, because they're helping the Clintons and Soros, the New World Order, all of that. I hate people calling me a conspiracy theorist. Hey, I worked for the damn government. I was there. I saw this stuff. It's not a conspiracy theory. I was called a conspiracy theorist by NBC, I think. I shouldn't get upset about that because actually they're the people that are the theorists and they are covering up for the crimes. In my situation, it would be like a detective who's trying to undercover, find out who committed a homicide, and because he's looking into it, he's called a theorist. Well, every crime starts out with a theory. It starts out with okay, what could have happened here? And then what you do is you go and you try to disprove your theory. That's really how it operates. And anybody who works in the opposite direction to try to prove their bias or their theory is a sham. That's how people get wrongly convicted. That's why the FBI has so many people in jail that shouldn't be, and we find out later that they're innocent, or even local police for that matter. This is a problem because now it's become a deal with getting a conviction, not just an arrest, but a conviction and jail time for people. That's how they make their promotions and get everything like their monies and all of that. So we don't have a system of justice in the United States anymore, and I've talked about that for a long time. And it's dismaying to me. When President Trump got up and he's talking about law and order, remember, the first place I said, that's great, President Trump. I want that too. But you're going to have to start in the agencies. You're going to have to go after the agencies that do not follow the law and order, that do not follow the supreme law of the land, the Constitution of the United States, and actually violate it with impunity. If you don't start there, you won't be able to fix it on the lower levels. And I'm going to stick to that. I love President Trump and what he's trying to do, but man, he's got some things ass backwards. And like this deal, the situation with going after, the entire thing with the First Amendment. Sessions pulled the wool over his eyes, but there are more important things here right now than saving face. And I would fire Sessions and say, go ahead and impeach me, I dare you. And some people say, well, I have a lot of respect for everybody who doesn't believe that that's the best way to go. I understand. But like I said, this isn't politics. These are the opening rounds, salvos of a real internal conflict, a civil war like nobody will ever be able to imagine. Conservative voices, I don't like to even say that. I'm going to just identify who they are. Christians, constitutionalists, vets by and large. Those are the type of people that are being silenced. Not the side that goes out there and calls for the destruction of life and property and trying to silence others, take away their First Amendment. And everything else. We have a problem. We really do. And unfortunately, I'm waiting. I'm hoping that these midterm elections give Trump what he apparently thinks he needs in order to go ahead. But by the same token, every day that he does not take action, going antitrust against people like Google and YouTube and Twitter, and yes, I'm going to say it. Hopefully, like I said, I hope they throw me off because I really wonder what good it does to talk about this stuff, especially at my level. Maybe as an outlet for all of you too. By the way, the chat is on in case you want to know. So, they're strangling the verbal, audible support for the president. That's what they're doing, and for MAGA and for the Constitutional Republic. They're strangling it, and nobody is there to go after them for antitrust violations or anything else. They get government money. You can prove it. They should be held to that standard, just like any other. They say, well, they're privately owned. Well, so is NBC, so is CBS, and all that. They still have to follow the FCC rather. Anyway, this is a big can of worms because we've allowed it to get out of control. And I'll tell you what, if the attack on the First Amendment continues and it's shut down, yeah, we might find other ways to get around that. But regardless of the success of those efforts, the damage that is going to be done to people, first of all, it's a psychological war. Because if you shut a person up so much, finally they just give up wanting to talk. Alex probably won't, but other people, is it really worth it to keep going? Well, of course it is, but it becomes a psychological thing where you wonder if your efforts are worth the end result. See, conservatives, people that aren't evil, don't make long-range plans to take advantage of others. In the scriptures, it says that the children of light are not as wise as the children of darkness. Actually, it says it the other way around. It says the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light. And what that means is that the children of light just live their lives. They try to treat people decent and all that. They're not conniving. They're not planning to injure somebody else. The other side does. So what I'm saying is that we on the light side have a tendency not to organize. We get nitpicky. I saw a lot of that last night with Ginger McQueen, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Same kind of thing happened to Lee Stranahan. We're so independent that our independence is our worst enemy, because we don't realize that the other side, they have sanctions in place to their members. First of all, they swear allegiance to it. They pay them. Violations of their agreements can result in some severe penalties, up to and including death, and not very pretty ones. Those types of things happen. So they have things in there. It's like a military, when if anybody saw The Red Line, with Lee Marvin and the guy that played in Star Wars. Anyway, they were on the beach, and Lee Marvin's trying to get his people to go forward. He says, if you don't move forward, you don't have to worry about the Germans shooting you. I will. That's how it works in these evil institutions as well. So they have an incentive to stay in place, mostly economic. They're very well taken care of one way or another, and they don't want to give that up. Look at Peter Strzok. So that's our greatest weakness. Our independence is our greatest weakness. We don't want to ally with someone else because they disagree with us on this little minor point, and you miss the big objective. I'm going to talk about that some more in a minute. Okay, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I haven't got much time this morning. We have some other things going on, but I didn't want to fail to come on and at least mention a few things and to give you all a chance to discuss what I said we were going to today. Okay, so anyway, it looks like Jenny Moore was probably, I don't have the proof, but the statistical probability of these people dying around the Clinton investigations is just out of control. And nobody seems to be able to have the guts or the necessary tools to get around that. And that should tell you something. I've talked about Hillary Clinton being, and Bill's her. Bill Clinton didn't have a brain in his head, really. Hillary was really the brains behind their entire operation. They used to talk about her being, back when Bill Clinton was president, he was the first husband. Hillary ran that whole deal. She did. Bill Clinton was just along for the ride and took advantage of the position of power, but it wasn't his brains. So Hillary's been the problem, and she is, in my estimation, Satan's consort. All the evidence is there. She has very, very strong, powerful people behind her, and I can't believe that Trump didn't know that going into this, but he has to get more aggressive. And I'm hoping. I didn't expect all of this to happen in the first term. If he gets a second term, maybe he'll go on. But there's still so many questions in my mind about that. I don't want to go there, but I just want to say that as Americans, we need to stay skeptical, even of the leaders that we find favorable to us. We need to hold their feet to the fire and demand that things be done. If for no other reason than to let the bad side know that we're still here, that we're still loud. I'm serious. There are some really bad things going on now. Even in the Q community, we've seen evidence that they're willing to take up arms and go against the enemies of the United States. Well, who is your enemy, Q? From what I saw last night, this is really bad. What are you going to do? You're going to go after Lee Stranahan? He's an enemy of the state. You've basically said he is. I might as well go to Ginger McQueen. The QAnonites did to Ginger McQueen last night what they have also done to Lee Stranahan. They mobbed her. It was just like the Christian zealots ganging up on Hypatia, a beautiful, innocent woman, intelligent, but because she doesn't tout their line, and she has the evidence. I'm going to just talk about Ginger McQueen. Ginger McQueen has done, and there are a lot of people out there. There's been a real problem in the conservative movement. Apparently, I don't know the whole story, but apparently Ginger McQueen leveled lawsuits against some people for something, and I think in the conservative community, and I think it had to do with putting words in her mouth, saying that she wrote something that she didn't. I don't know the details, but I know that there were some people that she doesn't have a lot of respect for, and vice versa. One person who doesn't trust her is very close to me, is a frequent communicator with me on Twitter. And she's probably listening, or he, I think it's a husband-wife team. And I have a lot of respect for you two people. You probably know who you are. We had some words yesterday, and very good ones as always. You were actually telling me how much you appreciate me despite what some of your friends think. So I understand that there's this problem. But see, this is what I'm talking about again, this breakup. And people say that Q hasn't divided us. Oh, yeah, hell it has. We didn't need Q. MAGA was doing fine. Q was an infiltration to destroy the base. That's exactly what it was. And for these people to make money on the Q side. That's exactly what it was. And I would just love to sit here and name names, but I'm not going to do it today. I want to concentrate on what happened to Ginger McQueen last night. If you don't know who she is, look her up on Twitter and on Facebook. On YouTube. She might have a Facebook account too. I don't know. She's going to school. She's a wife and mother, I would guess, but at least a housewife, as she described, which I find very refreshing. When asked on an interview what she does, she says, "Well, I'm a Midwest housewife." Wow, I haven't heard that term in so long. That was just amazing to me. So here we have this beautiful, intelligent, courageous, conservative woman who believes in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, all of those things, and sees Donald Trump doing the best he can and knowing that we need to get behind him, at least on the elections. And you don't even have to be a Republican. This is about principle. It's not about party lines, okay? It's about, if the ship is sinking and a little rowboat comes up next to you and says get in, but you don't like the guy who's in there because he may have stolen your cupcake at dinner the night before, are you going to get in the boat? I mean, come on, people. There's a point at which this division is ridiculous. I diverge again as usual. I do that a lot. I just see so much coming into play here. It's amazing to me that we are as stupid as we look. And I saw it last night. So Ginger McQueen, she's in a group. I forget the name of it right now. It's a MAGA group. Several of the people are actually in political positions. They've been involved in the Trump campaign at various levels. They're not dumb people. They're associated, I guess, with Scott Adams, for instance, Jack Posobiec. A lot of people have some questions about Jack Posobiec. I saw this last night. I'm going to bring this up. I don't mean to diverge on this, but it's just another issue that I thought, wow, what the heck's going on here? Jack is totally behind Trump now, is the way it looks, okay? It's the way it looks. But I saw this thing the other night, and I'm wondering what the heck. I don't know if you can see this, and I don't know if it's real. Jack, I don't mean to put you down. What I'm doing here is if this information gets to you, I hope you address it, because this might be somebody putting words in your mouth. If it's true, you could have had a change of heart. A lot of people, when they saw the direction the government was going, changed sides because they understood, as I've said earlier, the big picture. But here, let me put this up here. This is it's really a bad... Okay, but you see there he says, former paid troll for Paul Ryan and former deplorable. Get money. He says former, and that's key. Get money out of politics. Donald Trump is a liar and will not give us what we wanted. Now that was back in 2016. This isn't to attack Jack. As I said, you know, when people on the other side, when they saw, or who didn't want to support Trump because they wanted possibly Ted Cruz or, you know, whomever else they were looking at, but Trump got in there and then they said, hey, this guy's really doing something. They got fully behind it. So I'm not attacking Jack here. I just want him to know. He probably knows about this. I don't know what the circumstances are, but at any rate, the point is that at present, I think that Jack is doing a good job. That's the way I look at it. I'm very much looking forward to him coming out with the information on the Discord chat logs of the Q syndicate, criminal syndicate is what I'll call it here. So I diverged a little bit again there. So last night, the point is that these people that Ginger McQueen are involved with are very good. She's in school learning about political history and all these really important things. I'm glad she finds the time for that with as active as she is in other stuff. But at any rate, so she's been critical of Q for a long time. The same kind of information that I talk about. Also, Unit Rock 01, and there's a problem, believe it or not, between 01 and Ginger McQueen and some others, and I think it has to do with some misunderstandings that I've said before, and some probably inappropriate behavior. Because like I say, a lot of us don't, we try to push an issue to the point where it becomes detrimental sometimes, and I think that may have happened. I don't know all the details again, like I said, but I try, despite the fact that I'm attacking the QAnonite criminal syndicate, doesn't mean that I don't appreciate those who are trying their best to right the ship. And to get the keel back in the water and get the rudder so that we can steer it in the right direction, if this is even possible. And I'm still not certain that we'll succeed. So I try to, like in a good military staff, you're going to get people that pull in different directions, and that's necessary. But at the same time, you can't lose sight of the objective. And there are those who have to, finally come in and say, well, this is the way it's going to be. I just hope the right people get in that position. I think Trump has already said that. Sarah Sanders has already come out, and whether the Q people want to believe it or not, yeah, she did say Q was denounced by the president. We've seen it from Parscale. We've seen it from, just a lot of people. Okay, very close to the president, and I think he'll try to avoid getting any more involved in addressing that until after the midterms, because Q has turned into such a bad image. It's wrecked MAGA. It absolutely has. And anybody with an ounce of brain power will understand how this thing has happened. So I'm rambling on again. So Ginger McQueen allowed these I guess, she opened a dialogue with them on Twitter last night, and I'm ashamed. And I realize that not all Q people are this base and this disgusting, but the people that attacked her last night, you're not my friends, and you're not the friends of the American people. Of the American people and of the American Constitutional Republic. You are not. You actually revealed yourselves last night to be the dirty hog bastards that we suspected. You can't have a good conversation. I'd love to name some of you. I really would. I'm not hiding behind a pseudonym. Okay? You can't dox me. All right? My life is out there. Everybody knows what I am. But you guys, you proved yesterday who's running this Q thing, who you really are. To attack a good, decent, conservative, intelligent, courageous American woman the way you did last night, you're cowards. See you on the street and let's see what you say. And there are those of you who have threatened to go after people who disagree with QAnon in a deadly manner. You have stated that those who fight against Q are not patriots and that you're willing to take them out in a violent manner. You have said that. Oh yeah, you're real big men and some women too. You really think you're big shots. You're real big when you're behind an anonymous name. And then you see a courageous woman like Ginger McQueen out there, and you just can't stand it. You're just like Satan. Don't you know what Satan is? It's the accuser of the brethren. Oh, but no, Ginger McQueen's the one who's divisive of the conservative movement. Hey, MAGA existed before Q. McQueen was here before Q. It doesn't take a brain of any power to look at that and know that it's Q that came in and divided, was the divisive factor, because it's dangerous. And it's proving itself so to be. And it's going to get worse. You base, disgusting, demonic QAnon people that attacked her and attacked Lee Stranahan. Wow. You just show what you are. Anybody that follows you is a fool or complicit. I have good friends that follow Q. I'm not going to name them, but they know who they are. Come on, guys. Come on, ladies. Just because they say they're against pedophilia and they're out there pushing this stuff, most of which is crap. I'm not saying there isn't pedophilia, but let's be careful here. You're jumping on a bandwagon because of one word, because that's what you want to talk about. It's a deception, and it's being run by HRC and the Obama Foundation and Soros and Twitter and others, all in that same group. Don't get taken down that road. Don't subvert the Constitution to protect it. Do you remember Oliver North? I have no respect for Colonel Oliver North, and I haven't since he got in front of Congress and said that he had to violate the Constitution in order to protect it. That is bullshit. That's how you destroy the Constitution, not save it. Don't get pulled in because they're talking about one thing that you find important, while they lie to you about the 90% of the other stuff, like trust Sessions and trust Wray. Who do you trust? President Trump says that Sessions is a bad guy. That was his biggest mistake of his presidency. Q says to trust Sessions. Are you going to call Trump a liar? Because he said he'd never lie to us. Are you calling Trump a liar? Oh, well, he's working a psyop against the leftist Marxists, the DNC and the IC. Are you really? Do you understand how stupid that is? They are in a place to see exactly what he's doing. He's not pulling wool over anybody's eyes. He's not doing anything in secret that they can't see. The only prayer that we have is that there are enough good people behind him that they can pull this damn thing off. And here you are, trying to bring up all this crappy bullshit. Put people asleep, thinking that it's all going to be just fine because Trump's in charge. He's got 3D chess and 4D chess. I'm not saying he's not smart. But Ginger McQueen put it out pretty well. I think Jack Posobiec did it the same thing. She said, you know what? All the money that you gave this QAnon freak show could have gone to Republican candidates. A real place to win. Instead, you're buying guns for pamphleting on. Remember, he said, buy me a gun, buy me a gun. Did you see that clip? You're buying that. You're buying them houses. You're buying them cars. I'm not against capitalism. I'm against fraud and deceit. And there's no damn way that Q represents the President of the United States. And that's a fraud. And that's probably why the FBI hasn't done anything yet, because they like what's happening to Trump because of the Q deal. That's going to change. At some point, that's going to change. So all of you who attacked Ginger McQueen last night, yeah, you need to be ashamed of yourselves. I know you won't be, because you are demonic in your characters, in your personalities, in your spirit. Right and wrong is presented to you, and you made a bad choice. And I want to apologize to Ginger McQueen for bringing her up today. She can handle herself. She's a very smart woman. She doesn't need me to protect her. I'm just trying to point out how disgusting this entire thing has become, so that you know that it's occurring. Those of you who think the Q is a good thing, it is not. All right, I'm going to get off of that. Like I said, the chat's open in case you want to do some discussions. If you come here and you support Q, I'm kicking you. Do you understand that? I don't want your brainless, idiotic diatribe to show up here. I'll kick you. I wish I had moderators that could do it and keep track of it. Now, I'm disappointed in Lionel. He might be turning around. I don't know. But he's partly responsible for this bullshit. Yeah, I got him clicks. Yeah, I see that. Okay. All right. The other day I talked about Cicada 3301 and 911, and I showed you on the board. I was going to bring a whiteboard today, but we'll just talk about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll discuss it, okay? Anybody who has questions about what I put out the other day about Cicada 3301 and the 911 and what all that means, I'll be watching this on here and answering as many questions as I can about that. Let me give you a little background. And I've done this many, many times, but I know there are a lot of people that probably haven't gotten the information. I've studied Hebrew. I've studied Kabbalah, and people say, well, there's a good Kabbalah and there's a bad. Okay, Kabbalah, the modern Kabbalah, was based on the prophetic method of obtaining messages from God and finding out truth. It was called the Hekkelot, which means chambers or mansions. Okay, you had to have divine name, or you had to use the divine names in Hekkelot. You had to have very, very pure circumstances. You had to bathe in a particular way. There were some rituals that you had to perform in order to ascend through the different levels and get the information that you're looking for. And you had to know certain of the divine names of God, or at least obtain them to move ahead. This was a serious system, and it's how the prophets actually did their work. And some people say, oh, poo-poo, it doesn't matter what you believe. I'm going to put this over on the Cabal. I'm going to put this over on Hillary Clinton and on the Rothschilds and on the New World Order and on the Luciferians, okay? Because they do believe it, even if you don't. And they've used it very effectively, if you don't mind, looking at what the screwed up situation in the world is today. So what they have believed in has worked very effectively, whether you believe it or not. And because you don't believe it, you've got a blindfold on, and they're really running ripshod across us because of it. So, the Hekkelot was a pure system. All right. What happened is that the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 A.D. made it so that they couldn't use the ritual implements of Moses and use the divine names to ascend through the different heavens. I'll just put it that way, in their meditations. You don't have to understand why that affected it. You just have to understand that it did, okay? It's too complicated for me to get into any detail here. I could make an entire session on this for the next 10 years and not be able to explain it all to you. I've been studying this stuff for 30 years. So, they didn't have the ritual implements and the purity that they needed, but they still wanted to understand the truths of God, get revelations, receive, and some people were arguing with me about what Kabbalah means. It does mean, it literally means to receive, but in a very sacred sense. In other words, for revelation, to reveal things to you. It does. But because you don't understand that, you wanted to attack my understanding of this. You don't know don't make light of things you don't understand. Listen, learn. So, they came up with a system. It actually started prior to the destruction of the Second Temple. It's all in my book, The Crimson Thread. They took it's also based upon a thing called the Sefer Yetzirah, and there's some disagreement over when that was actually when it was actually written. The Sefer Yetzirah it was supposedly written by Abraham. Yes, the father of Jacob, Israel, Isaac, all that stuff. Supposedly written by him, but it was actually, if it was carried down by oral tradition, which it most likely was, I doubt that it was written. It was finally written down by some Kabbalists after Jesus was long gone. But some of the techniques were being practiced prior to that time, even if it wasn't written down. The holy people knew about it, those who were interested in the spiritual development. So what Kabbalah was is it would take the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the letters, and certain words and certain mantras, I'm going to call them that, chants, to put them in a conscious state. There are two sides to that. There's contemplation and there's meditation, okay? And they used that to climb these ladders, Jacob's ladder, if you will, and to obtain knowledge, to have things revealed to them. Kabbalah receive the revelation, okay? For those of you who wanted to make an issue of that, all right? But it did develop a bad side. There's always a mirror image. And in this case, because they didn't have the pure implements of Moses, they did not have the sacred names, they couldn't use them, and some other things, it developed a dark side. Just like you can use a screwdriver as a weapon to kill somebody and rob them, or you can use it for what it's supposed to be used for. As this metaphor I've used a lot to build something, to screw things in. Same thing with Kabbalah. If you know who Aleister Crowley is, he was an example of the bad side. He knew a lot, though. You read his material, and he knew a lot. He knew so much that even Hitler hired him. Yeah, Hitler. Shows you about how much he knew. Why the Nazis almost did what they did. Actually, they won. Actually, the Nazis won, and we see the fruits of that today. But history doesn't tell you that. But that's really the case. Again, showing you how powerful this stuff is. All right? You better not make fun of things you don't understand. You better get so you have some understanding, get some wisdom. And all of your getting, get a little understanding and wisdom. And for those of you who know what I'm saying here, who understand the esoteric and the sacred things, you'll know what I just told you. I'm not just speaking words. So, the Kabbalah has a good side. You can use. Remember, I said it in some of my programs. There's a scripture that says, "No scripture is of any private interpretation," and people always think that their interpretation is not the private one; that they're the one that's right. That's a very specific explanation of what you're supposed to do. It's not of any private interpretation because the meaning is in the Hebrew letters and words intrinsically. So what do you do with the Greek of the New Testament? You have to put it back into the Hebrew, which is not an easy task to do it exactly the way it should be. But Jesus was the restorer of the Torah, is really what he was, of the system, okay? So everything that does not jive with the Old Testament, with the Torah in particular, in the New Testament is suspect. Nobody wants to hear that, but that's what it's saying. You must use the Hebrew to understand Scripture, to get the different levels of meaning. When Jesus was on the cross and the guy was dying, and he said, "Remember me when you get into your kingdom," and Jesus said to him, "This day you will be with me in paradise." He's using an acronym that wasn't a word. It's about the different levels of meaning of the Scripture. PRDS. That's an acronym for the number of levels of meaning, and actually there are more than that. But that's what he was talking about. In other words, your eyes will be open and your ears will be unstopped, and you will see. Anyway, so Kabbalah has two sides to it, okay? That's the issue here. Let's get into a little of it. I'm just going to give you a taste of it, okay? Hebrew, the letters, Aleph through Tav, there are 22 of them. They are not just phonetic, they're not just representations of phonetic sounds like our alphabet is. A, B, C, D, E. Those are nothing more than phonetic equivalents written down. You know what the phonetic equivalent is because you were taught that. Okay? But there's no intrinsic meaning to the letter A in English. You could say, well, it's in the number one position, so it has a numeric value. Not really. It's in the number one position, that's all. But it has no intrinsic meaning, and when you look at it, it doesn't have any meaning in its shape or form. I'm going to say that's not exactly true, but for reasons I couldn't explain to you right now. But it's minimal. In Hebrew, everything literally does have meaning, QAnon. Everything really does have meaning, which is why I know you're false. And it took me a while. In Hebrew, Aleph, which would be like our little letter A, also has an assigned intrinsic numeric value of 1. It also has characteristics of a pictograph. In other words, it represents, in certain contexts, actually in all contexts, but to understand the meaning of it at the different partes, levels of meaning, you have to understand its different intrinsic meanings in and of itself. The first being an ox or a bull, or the first father, as I said in the last video, and even God. That's what Aleph represents. Bait, that's like the second letter in the alphabet. It does have the numeric value of 2, okay? And it has the B sound, the phonetic B sound, right? But it also means house, first house, sometimes womb. Depends on the context, but it has intrinsic meaning as a pictograph. The third one, Gimel, has a numeric value of 3. And it means camel or travel or that kind of a concept. And there are some other things. I'm just giving you a feeling for this. Each letter of the Hebrew alphabet has those properties. Okay? And they contribute to the meaning of the words that they're used in. And sometimes the prophets would replace the letters in a word, and I showed you that with the spelling of Cyrus, Koresh, in a video that I did some time ago, and I re-explained that again sometime later. Go back and look at my videos on Koresh. It says Donald Trump and Koresh or something like that. And I show you how they changed the spelling, and the prophets would do that to emphasize something or to give an esoteric, I don't want to call it, a sacred meaning to those who would understand what the message is. That's how Hebrew works. All right? Every word in every word also in and of itself has a numeric value because you add up the numeric values. So sometimes a Hebrew prophet would use a word that didn't mean the same thing as people might want it to mean in context, but the numeric value was the same, and so the prophet was telling the people that understood the system more than what just the readers of the stories would understand. It's that detailed, and yes, it's for real. It's not BS. It's why a lot of the reasons why the Jews have no respect for Christians, because they don't. There are a lot of Christians that understand this. They're coming around to it. They do understand it. Well, I don't want to get off on the different messiahs and all that stuff. Just I don't want to talk about Israel, the Jews, or the difference between the Judahites and Jews right now. That's not my purpose here. My purpose is now to move over into cicada. Does anybody here know what a cicada is, first of all? Now, Cicada 3301, they were involved in puzzles and things, and there have been people that say that there were members of Cicada that brought that information over to the Q phenomenon, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not here to argue that at this point right now. I just want to know here if I want a religious ramblings, go away. I gave you the news. I told you at the beginning of this. I gave you the news, the first part. If you don't want to hear this, go away. Listen. But this is why you are this. If you do not understand what I'm telling you now, or at least try to grasp it, it's why the evil side is winning, because you don't understand they believe this religious stuff. I'm not saying you have to, but if you don't understand this is why they're getting things over on you. It's just like when you go into court, and I've talked about this before, and you don't use the legalese that's required in court, you're going to get beaten. If you call yourself a person in court, it doesn't mean to you what it means to the lawyers and to the judge. And you're at a disadvantage. I'm giving you some information so that you will know what you're dealing with here, so that you know who the enemy is. I'm not saying Hebrew's bad. I'm not saying that Bible's bad or anything like that, but you got to understand that these people use the Bible on the wicked side as a playbook. They're following it as a playbook. And because of your ignorance, because of what you've been told for 2,000 years, you don't get it. I'm giving you some basic information so that you can understand where this is going. You know, why cast my pearls before swine? You know, there's a scripture that says that too, right? Don't cast your pearls before swine. Does anybody know what a cicada is? Let's look back on it. Every 17 years it comes out and makes noise. Very good, Rock and Robbie. There's something else too about it. Yeah, the Talmud's bad. By and large, it is. And it was the basis for the Quran. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, it's actually the locust lives on a 17-year cycle. They're allowed, they eat leaves. Okay, good. Cicadas are similar to a locust. Good. Okay, a lot of you know what it is. All right. It comes out at night. Do you ever wonder why why the people that started cicada chose the cicada symbol? Do you understand that? Because it's in the dark. It's at night. It's loud. It has red eyes. Whoa. It mates and dies. That's its whole purpose. Does that sound like a life you want to live? Does that sound like solving a puzzle? Or does it sound like something's trying to take advantage of you and keep you busy in stuff that doesn't matter? This is why I don't trust cicada. And I watch their stuff, and I've heard people say, oh, this is very comforting music, the designs are interesting, and there are hidden messages. Whoa. I'll tell you what, I did not feel comfortable with it at all. I'm putting my heart out on the table here. I had a member of, I'm not going to say who it was, I had who was probably a member of Cicada. And I'm not saying being part of Cicada is bad. I'm just saying that, we only want to look at the rosy side. We want to think that our prejudices and our biases are always the right ones. And I'm just giving you the other side. A member of Cicada came on my comments on my YouTube page and said, oh no, Roy, the 3301 has to do with a birth date. Okay, it could be, and I don't doubt that it is. It's written in a funny way, right? Probably the year first and then the month second, or however they broke that down. Yeah, it might be. But they didn't choose that birth date to use by accident. They used it because it went along with the Hebrew word, which I explained the other day. Gimel, Lamed, Aleph, which means to reveal. Gee, isn't that funny? Cicada is about puzzles. And yet, the Hebrew word that the numeric value of 3301 translates into the Hebrew letters means exactly what cicada is talking about, to reveal. Isn't that interesting? That wasn't an accident. And then I explained that it had another problem. And it has to do with the coming out at night, mating, and dying. And what was it? I told you that the purpose, that the meaning of the word also means to make naked, to reveal, to show you, but more, to make the land naked of inhabitants. How do you do that? Kill them, make them brain dead, make them so that they're operating in the land of puzzles and not in the real world, whatever. It all fits. So whether it was a birth date or not, it doesn't matter. It fits into the scheme. It fits in to the framework of the reveal, and not for the good things. Kabbalah can also reveal bad things, but it can also take you almost, not quite, to the throne of God if you know what you're doing. And if God has grace upon your sorry soul. Because, it's a lot like jobs. Some of us have jobs to do. It's not because we're good. It's not because God thinks, man, you've done such a good job in your life that I'm going to bless you with this and I'm going to bless you with that. It's not anything we did. It's because it's our job. We're doing our job. It has nothing to do with with God saying how good we are, and so we get this information. It's our job. That's why I don't take honor in it. But I am supposed to discuss it with those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And if you don't want it, go away. These are not religious ramblings. Because the evil side that has been trying to take over the world has succeeded by and large for the last 6,000 years at least. Believes this stuff, and that's why they've been successful, because they apply the principles that surround it. They're evil principles, but they're principles nonetheless. And as I explained in the beginning, if you violate those principles in their system, they kill you. They give you money, they give you power because you go along with their principles, but if you violate their principles, they take your money and your power away and maybe your life. Where in the conservative community do we have that kind of enforcement of our values? Nowhere, because it's in violation of the very principles we stand for. And it's our greatest weakness. Okay, that was 3301. And I talked about the 9/11 already the other day. 9/11 shows you with the tet, which is the 9, and the 2 olives, that the evil side is telling you, yeah, I know it doesn't spell Satan or Lucifer or the devil, all that. I just told you what the Hebrew letters are. They are pictographs and numeric values as well. And you can tell a whole story without ever using one word, just the letters. And as a matter of fact, the Hebrew alphabet is a story in and of itself, from Aleph to Tav, from the beginning to the end. Aleph means beginning. Tav means end. I am the beginning and the end. I am one eternal round. I am the Alpha and Omega. Is any of this is it dawning on anybody out there? Don't make light of what you do not understand. Am I mad? No, I'm trying to emphasize how important this is. Roy needs a little 420. Okay, 9/11. Again, what it means is Satan is God. Emphasized twice. That's what it means. So 9/11 was their worship of Satan, Lucifer, Moloch, whatever you want to call it, saying that he's God and they're making a blood sacrifice to him, and I explained that before. Oh, I like that, Swivel Hips. How to spell Satan? Hillary. She's definitely his consort. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Okay, I don't expect everybody to understand. Like I said, I've been studying these things. Look, I even brought my Strongs here. You can see this. Let me make sure that you can see this. So I'm going to put this. See, I got this. I've got a book that talks about the different letters and their meanings. All right? The 3 mother letters, the 7 double letters and the 12 simple letters. All of this stuff, the Sefer Yetzirah. Again, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The people that are beating your asses every day with their taxes, with their wars, with their monetary system, with the crap they're putting in Hollywood, etc., they do believe it, and that's why they're winning. Because they apply the principles. Because you refuse to open your eyes and identify the real enemy. And they are your enemy, I guarantee you. Okay, I need to go back to the chat. Tricky Vicky, Roy already knew this stuff. I know you're correct. Thank you, Tricky Vicky. I appreciate that. A lot of people, see, they don't want to go there. They want to have their blinders on, and that's what Q does to you. It puts your blinders on. It gets you so involved in trusting the government and getting in a war in Iran and just this and just that you're missing the fact that they're shutting you down. Q is evil, and it is the divisive spirit that came into MAGA. MAGA existed first, and Q came in. It's even biblical. God set up a program, and Satan came in the middle of the program. If you understand the principles, ladies and gentlemen, I'm even asking you to believe the spiritual side of it, or the religion. I'm talking about the principle. Satan came in and said, no, I want my plan to be done, and I'm going to replace you. I want to sit on your throne. Don't you see that Q's done that? It's exactly what's happened. It's the type and shadow. It's exactly what happened. Q is a Hillary satanic movement. Alex Jones, who's very concerned about, his programming, right? He's got to make money, because he's trying to expand, he's trying to get the truth out. Whatever you think his reasoning for doing what he does is immaterial to what I'm going to tell you right now. He got taken. He was blindsided. He got out-thunk. In December, he invited the Q people, Baruch the Scribe, as he's known. We know him also as Paul Ferber. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not sure Paul knew what was happening here. Anyway. He and Pamphlet and on this Coleman dude, Rogers, came on Alex's show and talked about Q. And the Q thing went skyrocketing. Did any of you understand that? That's when Q really took off, was when these guys showed up on the Alex Jones show. Then Alex even said, I met Q. What? Nobody's supposed to know who Q is. How did you meet Q? Now, he won't talk about that now, but he did say it at the time. And they got so involved in it that they put Corsi, they had Corsi start doing his work, right? Well, yeah, there's no doubt that Alex Jones did meet Q, Pamphlet and on, this Coleman Rogers dude. Yeah, I think so. Now, I'm not saying that he's the brain behind the whole thing. That's not true. But Alex got fooled. And what he did was he gave the Q thing a platform to launch to even bigger heights. And then Pamphlet and on revealed why they did that. Because they wanted to replace InfoWars. Now, where would he have... Is that just a marketing thing? Is this just competition? And why? Why destroy a patriot who's been who's been tried and proven? Yeah, okay, Alex is he's got an ego as big as the universe, Sometimes he gives information for sensationalism. Yeah, I know that. But Hillary said she wanted to take InfoWars down. And you thought it was going to be some other way. Q's mission is to take InfoWars down and to destroy free speech and to destroy the presidency of Donald Trump. And in the process of all of that, destroy the Second American Revolution and the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. Manifestly, prima facie. It was turned into a cult within 3 weeks of its coming out on 4chan. Within 3 weeks. And the original promises that Hillary was going to be extradited and indicted and in prison, arrested, and Podesta never happened. And a lot of other things initially. And then to cover it, they used the excuse disinformation is necessary. And I talked about that. That is a true intelligence principle. It is. Which is why I watched it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then I went, something's wrong here. This isn't just to help people wake up to MAGA. No, this is to usurp. This is to infiltrate. This is to subvert, to deceive. And anybody who followed me after that knows that, especially with the DEFCON 1 deal, that horrendously stupid move that they made, who showed that they didn't know what they were talking about on January 7th. There were things that happened before. Unirock knew it, Monograph knew it, and there were others. Some of Ginger McQueen's people, if they were even on the radar at that time that this thing was going on, I'm not sure about that. But the point is, a lot of people saw it. No, there is no Q rating in military intelligence. You're right, there isn't. It's on the Department of Energy side. So when they say they're military intelligence, they have Q clearance, they showed themselves on that as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. Get off the Q train, get back on MAGA. Give your money to the candidates that are running for office, that are trustworthy, that support MAGA, that support the Constitutional Republic of the United States, and stop feeding these liars and deceivers, and Hillary laughing her ass off, and Obama laughing his ass off, that these conservatives are this stupid. They're proving it. They're proving why they put you to sleep for 6,000 years, and they're going to do it again. I'll lie to you. This is what Lucifer says. I will tell you the truth after I lie to you 90% of the time. And they've done it to the Q people, and it's wreaked havoc in the efforts to restore the constitutional republic of the United States. Will the FBI raid Q? Not under the present circumstances, because Q is doing exactly what the intelligence community and the people that want to destroy the American Republic desire. So the FBI is rotten to the core. It's not going to do it. If anybody invades, goes after, it's going to have to be somebody really loyal to Trump, like I've said before. U.S. Marshal Service, DHS, some other things have to happen. So I don't anticipate much occurring until after the midterms, if at all. Maybe Trump isn't as strong as I hoped he is. But I also know this is a natural course of events. It's not eschatological in the sense of signs and wonders. It never happens that way. It never, ever, ever happens that way. It's a natural course of events. So all of you who are looking for these big things in the sky to occur, if they do, they're blue beams. They're nanotech reflecting the blue beams and doing holograms. That's not the way it happens. It happens here and it happens here, not out there. Okay. Rise Republic, no flies off Potter. Hey, I'm out where ranches and things are. There are lots of flies. I'm sure they're in here. I just, every once in a while I'll see one fly by, but oh well. Yeah, we can talk about Christ. Christ to me is more. Again, I'm not a personality guy. I'm a principle guy, and I think Christ is too, for that matter. The personality of Christ is more a principle guy than a personality guy, and that's what he wants. What is it? I want my people have the law of God written in their hearts and their minds. In their hearts and their minds, they become what Jesus is, right? For Jesus Christ is heir to all that the Father has, and you are what? Co-heirs with him. Let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, that he, finding himself in the form of God, thought it not robbery to make himself equal to God. Let that mind be in you? Yes. It's personality second. It's principle first. Bring those principles. To take the name of Jesus Christ upon yourself is taking those principles upon you. Embedding them in your DNA, in your heart, and in your mind. Becoming that. Greater works will you do than I have done because I go to the Father. That's a quote from Jesus. Think about it. Stop putting yourselves down. Stop looking out there. It's in you. And if it isn't, you better try to find it some way to get it inside you. You have to do the initial work, and then God will take care of the rest, depending upon what your job is. You know, it was like with Moses. Moses' job was to be the deliverer, to represent the deliverer God, right? Moses didn't know that. Yeah, he was out there warring, killing, all the stuff that the Egyptians did. But when it came time for him to have to do what God hired him to do, he had to do the job. It had nothing to do with the goodness of Moses. It had to do with, it was his job. Phil McCracken, I don't believe anything anymore. Believe in yourself. It's in you. You can choose the good or the bad in yourself and stand for those principles. And you will reap the rewards accordingly. I don't mean you'll have an easy life. The good usually gets stomped on, ridiculed, demeaned, spat upon. It takes some courage to take that and to know that you're doing the right thing and to continue doing it. Believe in yourself. All right. Yeah, West Virginia Supreme Court being impeached by House of Delegates. Yeah, really, no kidding. That's good. Okay. Well, nobody's really asking any questions here. Yeah, the kingdom of God is in you. Exactly. 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 My sheep hear my voice and follow me. Follow him how? In your actions, in your heart, in what you do, in what you say, in what you believe in, and how you conduct yourself. Absolutely. My wife used to say it, bless her heart. Like I say, she died back in 2008, but she used to say, you know, Roy, you need to just learn to dance in the rain. Pretty good advice, really. Dance in the rain. All right. I asked a question. Marsheev. I'm sorry. You know, I don't have mods, so I can't follow this. Let me see if I can find your question, Marsheev, since you brought it up. No, I don't see it. Sorry. Okay. Well, I missed whatever it is you were wondering about. Serena S. Do you think YouTubers will be arrested? Well, no, not all of them, of course. No way. But there is a core group that knows what they're doing, and they know that they've used fraud, saying that they represent the President of the United States, that they represent the military intelligence, which we've already proven that they don't. Not saying that they're not getting information from rogue elements of the NSA, the CIA, etc. I do believe that that's the case, that they are. They're getting help from somebody that knows how to manipulate people in a very expertly way. If in fact they're not intelligence operatives themselves, but they're not the good guys, and they're not military intelligence in regards to the Q thing. No, they're not. So, will they be arrested? I think the core group eventually will be. Yeah, I do. You can't make those kinds of claims about representing the President of the United States and not violate the United States Code, which they have done, in my estimation. So it's a matter of time. But like I said, I don't think Trump wants to move on that, if he's even that concerned about it. People claim to talk for the president all the time, right? And they don't go about it. But this could be a little different. But I don't believe that he's going to do much about it until after the midterms. However, a lot of information's come out, like I've talked to you about before. All of the connections, all of the financial deals, the way that they've been able to manipulate the information, et cetera, how they did it, the people involved, all that has come out, and there's going to be more coming out from the group that Ginger McQueen is associated with. It's not her group, but she's associated with it, and they've got it all too, because probably the same people that were giving the folks that I've dealt with the information. And I'm not the data geek here. You know, I'm not the nerd geek. You know, I don't know how they got the information. I'm not, you know, I basically I do, but I wasn't involved in that. It was people like Monograph, Unirock, 0 Hour One, Mythopaic, and the really good, I'm going to just call them anons for lack of a better term, who went in and got this information, and we've already put it out. I did it a couple of videos back, and I showed you the links. Okay. There's a question as to whether all of those anons were actually helpful. No, I'm sure there were some that weren't, and they may have given information to go down the wrong hole. Okay, but then you've got other people involved in it as well, and I think enough of the truth will come out, especially when Jack Posobiec gives his final view on this, and Ginger McQueen and those folks, when they finally unleash it, that'll be there. Will that take down Q? No, because they're cultists. Cultists never learn to be critical thinkers, ever. The reason why they join something like that is because they are not critical thinkers by and large. The critical thinkers take the leadership roles. And again, I would name those right now, but I won't. But they use their critical thinking for their own purposes, not for the good of the people. Cultists are very, anything that challenges their belief system, they either ignore or they attack. They cannot have a reasonable conversation. You saw that with Ginger McQueen last night. You would see how they treated Lee Stranahan, how they treated Unirock. Wow, they came after Unirock really bad. Unirock had all the evidence. They've come after me, but I don't engage them. They're not worth my time. And they better not meet me on the street. Bad idea. Bad idea. And all my family are armed to the teeth, and they know how to use them. Okay? Don't be stupid. Really. Don't be stupid. Oh, this is an interesting question. Rockman Robbie. Roy, do you recommend 5.56 or 7.62? Well, there are a lot of details as to the reason why. Most people can handle the 5.56 easy. Training on it's very easy. It's not hard to use. You can carry a lot of ammunition. It makes a lot of noise, and if you get hit with it, it's bad news, right? 7.62 I prefer, but that's a little more difficult to handle. So in most situations, I would say it's better to be able to fire something like the 5.56 and hit it than to shoot a 7.62 and miss. Okay, although the noise will be sufficient, but that's a matter of choice and ability. Like with a lot of things. Okay, so you just got to do your homework there and see what you feel most comfortable with. All right. 7.62 tumbles? No. The 5.56 used to. They fixed that. But the 7.62 doesn't. The 7.62 will go through brush without tumbling. 5.56, not so much. 7.62 doesn't tumble. No. Oh, that's a good point, Gene Lloyd Bradbury. Have you thought about 9/11/01 New York City versus 10/12/02? Dang it, this thing jumps and I miss it. Bali twin. That's interesting. The Bali twin ground zero bombings. 1 day, 1 month, 1 year later to the day. Excellent comment, Gene. Thank you for bringing that up. Again, it just shows the cabal and how they use the numeric system, how they use the numerology to do what they do. And that's why it's important to understand these things. Very good. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to check into that a little bit more. Matter of fact, let me look at this just for a minute. Huh. Very interesting. I'll get back with you on the 10-12. I'll get back with you on that. That is in fact interesting. I'll leave it at that for right now. Okay. I don't see too much else going on here. Looks like you guys are having a pretty good conversation amongst each other. I kind of hate to shut it down just for that reason. But I do have other things to do. Wait till we can remote view the cabal and the astral plane, riding the 5G back to the source. 5G is a problem. Like I say, this shutdown of the First Amendment and this panopticon that's railroading through and about ready to take over. It's scary stuff. You better have the law of God written in your heart and in your minds. You better, because nothing else is going to get you through this. Knowing what's right and wrong based on principle, not personality. Okay. Yeah, the whole thing with Turkey is leaving the U.S. dollar next to where to come. Turkey is a problem, and I've called that out for a long time. Turkey is a problem, and it should never have been brought into NATO. They did it, for political, diplomatic reasons, but Turkey's a problem. Yeah, it absolutely is. I worked with Turkish officers. They're very competent. They're smart. They're tactically proficient. I mean, hell, they've been fighting the Kurds for years. And other things. I'm not saying those are good things. I'm just saying they know their business. And of course, the leadership of Turkey is just as corrupt, but overtly so, outwardly so. It's just as corrupt as everybody else, but they just show their face more often. Look what happened to the Armenians, and this was a year ago. the Turkish president and his bodyguards, they were there in Washington, D.C., and there were some Armenians there who were protesting, and the Turkish Secret Service just beat the crap out of those people, really hurting a few of them. Nothing happened. I think that a few of the Turkish people were charged, but all that was dropped later. They're bad. They're bad folks. They're not good. They're not good. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully I cleared up a few things. I know that, I talk about these things, and unless you see it, you don't, other people don't know about it. They'll re-ask the questions or whatever. And, of course, new material, anytime you get new material, it's kind of hard to remember it. It's hard to absorb it and then to use it in some positive fashion. And I recognize that. So I don't expect people to understand everything that I'm talking about here, and most of you certainly haven't spent 30 years studying it yet, right? So that's going to be an issue as well. And I'm not saying that you should even go there and study, especially this Hebrew stuff. It can get pretty daunting. But what is critical that you understand is you cannot judge the evil cabal based upon your limited knowledge, and try to explain their behavior based upon your understanding of that, unless you have delved into it to at least even a superficial level. Do not make light of that which you do not understand. And Q, don't attack McQueen anymore. That's cowardly to go after a woman. Oh, you'll say, equal rights and all that. Well, I've never subscribed to that. I've never been PC. I believe in treating women like women, and when you treat them like you did last night, doing the stuff you did to her, you're disgusting, despicable, deceitful, and the most base of trash. Do I think that my calling you out on that is going to change you? No, because you are trash. You just show who you are. God bless you. God bless yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. It's better to be prepared a year too early than a minute too late. God bless Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Lord send him the spirit of discernment that will descend upon him as the dews from heaven, that he may know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. Not easy in today's world, pretty hard, but I think he's up to the task. But we need to be skeptical. We're Americans. We need to hold our representatives, our elected representatives, and their minions, their bureaucrats and all those people, we need to hold their feet to the fire. It's on the edge right now. It could go either way. And if you go along with Q, if more people go along with Q, it's not going to go well. Ginger McQueen did say one thing. She said, after all the disagreements that we have about the sources, make sure that you go out and you vote in the election and get the right people in there that'll help Donald Trump do what he's going to do. If he's going to do bad, well, we need to know he's going to do bad. That's what we've got. That's the real world. That's what we have to work with. So however you feel about it, that's where we've got to go. Or we can just kiss all of this. Personal liberty, freedom, prosperity, even our very lives. We could just kiss them all away. This is our one chance. Never said he was perfect. I've come down on him more than once. I don't suspect that I'll be free of that in the future. I suspect that I will probably still have some difficulties. One being that he's not acting on this First Amendment problem and the shutting down of people like InfoWars by these very evil private companies. Jeff Sessions is a shameful. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he turns around, but at this point, he's shameful. As far as I'm concerned, he's got some issues of an evil nature. So, until next time, out here.